Okay, welcome back to another episode. In this one, we're going to be talking about the model codes of B4 lenses. There's a lot to go through in this episode, so I've left chapter markers in the description. As well, the timeline of this video should be divided into chapter markers so you can skip ahead to the section that matters to you. But if you're new to B4 lenses, I thoroughly recommend watching the whole thing through, as it'll give you a bit more of a basis and understanding of the different model codes across the range, rather than diving in and just learning one model code. So we're going to kick off with all the Canon lens models, as they're the ones I know the most about. But I also know enough about the Fujinon model codes to be able to give you a good understanding of those as well, so they'll be afterwards. I'm also going to progress through the model codes, starting at the lower cost, lowish quality of lenses, and then work through to higher and higher and higher quality of lens. With that out of the way, we will start with the YJ lens. YJ is the model code for Canon's professional video lenses. And the Y is the part in it that designates that it's a professional video lens, and the J designates that it's a 2/3 inch lens. So they will cover and fit 2/3 inch cameras. So this is one here. It's designed to work with a 2/3 inch B4 camera, and it will work on the 2/3 inch B4 cameras that these will. It's just a standard definition rated lens as far as Canon's rating system goes. It also has a slightly more budget orientated build quality and speed of the servos and features. So that's what a YJ lens is. The Y means it's a standard definition professional video lens, and then the J means it is made for 2/3 inch 3 CCD sensors. So it will work on your typical 2/3 inch broadcast cameras. And in my case, I used the 2/3 inch B4 mount adapter with optics to correct for that lack of prism to use on single chip cameras like my FS7 there in the back. So that's a YJ lens here. They perform really well for sort of professional video, or where the maximum amount of quality is not necessarily needed, and cost effectiveness on equipment is a high priority. So they can perform really well. They really perform the best when they're stopped down a bit. Wide open, they have a fair bit of chromatic aberration and a little bit of ghosting and gauziness, but stop down a bit and they do sharpen up enough and remove some of those aberrations that they would be useful in a situation where you had plenty of light and were able to stop down. And because this is a really thorough video that I'm doing here, we'll go through the model code one bit at a time. So this is the YJ19. So that means Y is a professional video designation and standard definition, J 2/3 inch sensor coverage, and the mount is a 2/3 inch B4 mount. The 19 means it's a 19 by ratio lens. So the zoom ratio is 19 times the next number. And then it's got a X, which is a by 9. So 9mm is the wide angle of this lens. And then to get the maximum telephoto range, it is 9 times 19. I'll put the math to what that equals up on the screen here. Actually, I could just look at the lens. It goes up to 171 mil. So 9mm on the wide end, and then 171 on the most telephoto end. So that's the YJ19 by 9. Then they'll have a bunch of other letters. So I will link a little chart up in the corner or down in the description that will go over the extra letters. They're basically just extra little features that has like internal focus, digital drive, in-out points, that sort of thing. That is something that is best explained by the chart, as there's a lot of different things that go into these lenses with the numbers and letters after that initial YJ19 by 9. So everything after that is sort of the extra features. I've made a full video breakdown of this lens and shown some test footage with it adapted to my camera and corrected. So if you want to watch that, I will put a card up in the corner and a link down in the description so you can view that video about the YJ 19x9. Okay, moving on to the next one. So next on the list is a J series lens. So remembering from the previous one, the YJ series, that J in the model code meant that it was designed for 2/3 inch cameras and has a 2/3 inch B4 lens mount at the rear. So being a J series lens, this one is also designed for that 2/3 inch B4 lens mount. The J also denotes that this is a standard definition lens, and it also denotes, without any other letters in front of it, that this is a broadcast lens in the standard definition range. So that means it's going to be slightly higher quality than the YJ lens, being a professional video lens. Broadcast grade is the next step up. It's sort of the really high-end equipment of the time. This is a relatively old lens now, but back in the day it would have been really prized possession, quite expensive and very high quality. For the model code of this one, it's no longer on the hand grip, but what I can do is I can flip it over there, and it's also engraved and highlighted in the actual base of the body of the lens. So this is a J21 by 7.8 lens. So they're the important numbers, and if you remember from the previous lens we talked about, that means that this is a 21 by ratio zoom, so that's even longer than the 19 by ratio of this one. That also means that it is by 7.8, so it means on the widest end of this lens it is 7.8 millimeters, and then for the math, I'll throw it up on screen, so you've got 21 by 7.8 to give you a total of, so that's 164 millimeters marked on the lens here. Slightly wider angle than this because the YJ was a 9mm on the wide end and this is a 7.8, quite a bit wider on the wide end. Additionally to that, broadcast grade lenses tend to have what's called a doubler. That's this hump at the back here that protrudes out from the lens body. This is a doubler. Basically you flick this lever and it throws in a 2x teleconverter into the optical path of this lens. So without that, you get the 21 by 7.8 focal range, and then with the doubler, you effectively double that wide end, so 7.8 times 2, math somewhere on screen, and then 21 times that new number with the doubler in gives you double the effective zoom range of this lens. You do lose some image quality using the doubler as it expands all the lens's imperfections. So you need to stop down a bit when using the doubler to get better image quality, but it's a useful tool to have and it's just there and can be flicked in whenever you need it. So if you're further away than you want it to be and you absolutely had to get that shot, a broadcast lens has that doubler to be able to get that extra reach and get that shot that you need. So yeah, that sort of rounds off the J series lenses. Now we're going to move on up the chain to the next series. So next up on the list for Canon's lineup of lenses is a KJ series lens. Now I don't own any KJ series lenses and I've never used one, but they are a professional video HD lens. So just like the YJ was a professional video SD lens for 2/3 inch, the KJs are a professional video lens for HD, so an upgrade from the YJ, and they're also a 2/3 inch lens. So the K means they're HD rated and professional video, and then the J next to it in the model code means that it's a 2/3 inch lens. And these lenses typically look like a J series lens. Some of them have a doubler, some of them don't. They typically, again, have the slightly lower build quality, slightly slower servo motors, but they are quite capable lenses, the KJ lenses, but they tend to be more affordable than a broadcast series HD lens. They're a definite step up from the YJ lenses, much more polished, much better image quality, but again, slightly higher price again. So that's a quick one on the KJ series of lens. So moving on now to one of my highest quality lenses, but not necessarily the highest quality maximum for Canon's range. This is a HJ series lens. So we went from YJ, the lowest, the quote unquote lowest cost, lower quality image lens in a YJ. Then we went up to J series, which is a step up in image quality and features. Then we went up to KJ, which I don't have a lens of, and that was a step up from the J. And now we're going up a step up from the KJ, which would be a HJ series lens. So this is a bit of an unusual one to be showing you for a HJ series lens. Usually the HJ series lenses look similar to a J series lens, but a bit more refined, nicer servo drives, but they generally look like a broadcast lens. This one looks a little different, just purely because it's a cinema version of a HJ lens. So it's designed and housed as a cinema lens from brand new from Canon, but they also made a broadcast version of this lens as well. So if you want more information about this lens, I will put a card up and a link down in the description. I've done a more deeper in-depth dive on this lens and got plenty of example footage from this lens. So yeah, generally you would have a servo grip on the side of a HJ lens. This one just happens to be a cinema version. This one is a HJ 21 by 7.5 lens. That's the model code. It's got a bunch of letters after it, but that section I just said is the most important part that we're going to care about for this video. So that means the H means it is a HD rated lens. The J means it's a 2/3 inch B4 mount lens and suited to 2/3 inch broadcast cameras. And then the 21 by means it's a 21 by zoom ratio, same as all the others. You know, that first number is the one that you multiply the wide angle by to get the full zoom ratio. So 21 by, great long zoom ratio. And then the 7.5 is the widest end, so 7.5 millimeters. So the maths for this one is 7.5 to 158 mil on the zoom, but otherwise very similar to use, besides missing that servo zoom on the side. So this is the highest quality Canon lens that I own, but they actually go up further from here. So let's go on to the next grade. So next up from the HJ model code in Canon's lenses, they have the CJ line of lenses. Now this line of lenses is the 4K line and the most up-to-date modern version of Canon's broadcast lenses. So the C in the CJ model code for those lenses means that it is a 4K rated lens. That's what the C is. Then the J, again, similar to all of these, means it is a 2/3 inch B4 lens suited to 2/3 inch broadcast cameras. So that basically explains CJ. I don't have one because they're extraordinarily expensive and beyond my budget, because they're that 4K rated. They also have just a lot of bells and whistles, quieter servos. They're the modern standard of Canon's broadcast lens lineup. But yeah, they come in all sorts of zoom ratios and wide angles, so definitely be looking at that. So broadcast lenses don't always just come in the 19 to 20, 22, 21 by range. Some of them also come in shorter ranges, so you've got like a J16 by 8, standard definition 2/3 inch, 16 by ratio, so less zoom than these ones with the 20 odd ratio, and then by 8 millimeter on the wide end. So that's what that would mean. So there's different lens ratios that you can get. I've also got on on the camera in the background, I've got a J11 by 4.5, so very short zoom ratio, but you'll notice the wide end on that is 4.5, which is a really nice wide end lens. So wide angle lenses tend to be a bit more expensive, and so that one, J11 by 4.5, J is meaning that it's a 2/3 inch B4 lens. That's the mount and the coverage. It's also standard definition by just having the J. And then the 11 by is a bit of a shorter zoom ratio. So 11 times 4.5. 4.5 is the wide angle end. Remember, the YJ was a 9. This one, the J was a 7.8 and the HJ was a 7.5. So 4.5 in B4 terms is a lot wider than any of these ones. So that's a really, really nice wide angle lens, similar to sort of in full frame terms, like a 16mm lens. You're going to get that really nice wide angle field of view at the widest end. And you also get a moderately nice zoom range as well. And I've got a full video detailing that lens. I'll link card or down below, however I'm going to do it. And so there's different ratios that you can get in all of these different lenses. There are some additional model codes that I didn't mention because they're relatively uncommon or they're more studio based and I don't have a lot of experience with them. So if you do want more information on those extra model codes for studio, go to the card here or down in the description. So not sort of in this category, there's also the EJ series of Canon lenses, which are not actually zooms, but they're Cine primes. So they're, the E denotes that it's a Cine prime, and the J denotes that it is a 2/3 inch B4 mount and covers a 2/3 inch sensor. So they also made those EJ primes, which are HD rated 2/3 inch cinema prime lenses. So EJ and then the focal length of the prime. I'll try and find some examples of those to show in pictures or whatever. I have personally only used EJ primes once, and I say used loosely. I was on a project with them, but I was not operating the camera. And yeah, there's some really interesting 2/3 inch primes. They're not necessarily going to get you the best shallow depth of field. Consider them sort of akin to like a Super 16mm prime, except in the EJ prime world, you can actually get quite wide angle versions compared to a lot of older Super 16 lenses. So yeah, that's the range of Canon lenses that I've used and come into contact with, and more of the common ones that I think a lot of people will care about. But if you want more details on those Canon model codes, you can go down to the link in the description for that actual chart that Abel Cine has made. It also goes into more of your studio-based model codes, which I don't have much experience with. It also goes into B4 lenses that are not really useful for adapting, which are the 1/3 inch and 1/2 inch lenses. These are not really, they have a different mount to the standard 2/3 inch B4 mount with their sizes. These are not interchangeable with 2/3 inch lenses. I would not recommend getting them, despite them popping up and looking a lot cheaper than 2/3 inch lenses. They just aren't as useful unless you have a native broadcast camera that is a 1/3 inch or 1/2 inch lens mount. Then they're useful, but otherwise I would stick to the 2/3 inch lenses if you're going to be adapting them or using them for most other higher quality broadcast cameras. Now we're going to move on to the Fujinon lens lineup, and I'm sorry I don't have any lenses to show you for Fujinon. I've sold all of my Fujinon lenses on, but basically we'll zoom through it really quickly so you can just get all the details you need. So for Fujinon, in terms of your standard definition 2/3 inch lenses, you're looking for a model code with an A on its own. So an A19 by 8.7, say. That's a lens that I've had in the past. So the A on its own denotes that it is a standard definition 2/3 inch Fujinon lens. It doesn't designate whether it's a broadcast or a professional video Fujinon lens. So go down to the chart in the description from Cine, and that will give you more details on what the different A series of Fujinon means. So Fujinon's A series is similar to Canon's J series. They're sort of competing standard definition rated lens series. So the J series from Canon is standard definition 2/3. The A series from Fujinon is standard definition 2/3. So they're sort of competing. And then you've got similar competing lenses to the YJ, but in the Fujinon line, they are still just A series lenses, whereas in Canon, they are designated YJ. So yeah, be careful with the A series lenses. Well, just have a look into them. Some of them are professional videos, some of them are actual broadcast grade. Just look into what you're buying, because you don't want to be thinking you're buying a broadcast grade and you get a professional video grade. So just do a bit of research and you'll be fine. The next step up for Fujinon is a HA series of lens. So that's H, similar to the HJ series of lens. The H in the HA is for high definition. And then the A again, combined with the H, is high definition 2/3 inch B4 lens. So HA is your 2/3 inch B4 lens for Fujinon and high definition, whereas Canon is HJ, and the HJ and the HA are sort of competing levels. They're on the same level essentially. So you'll find similar qualities of lenses in each and similar features in each because they're at a competing level. So past that level for Fujinon, you go into their 4K rated lenses, which I have never used before, but from memory, I believe it's an UA series lens that is their 4K rated. So for Canon, it was their CJ series lenses that were their 4K. And then for Fujinon, it's their UA series that are 4K 2/3 inch lens. So that U is basically 4K rated, and then the A being combined with it means that it is a 2/3 inch B4 lens. So Canon and Fujinon have always been sort of the main players in the 2/3 inch B4 broadcast lens space. However, there are other people who have made lenses in that space. In particular, a very high quality one is Zeiss. Zeiss made the Digi Primes and Digi Zooms, which are HD rated, maybe even 4K capable B4 2/3 inch zooms and primes. So the Digi Prime and the Digi Zoom, they have a full range of B4 2/3 inch Digi Primes. And then they have the Digi Zoom, which I've seen as sort of a short zoom ratio, but very high quality lens. They're more specifically B4 cinema lenses because they have 0.8 pitch focus, RS and zoom gears for, your follow focus and that sort of thing. They do not have a servo zoom or doublers or anything like that. They are cinema specific lenses in the Digi Zoom and the Digi Prime from Zeiss, but they're very high quality. If you wanted a very nice lens set in primes and zoom that apparently match really well, that might be an excellent option, and they're fantastically priced considering how good they are, just because the 2/3 inch B4 realm has become a bit of an unknown, particularly for cinema people. The other one that I know of that has made some B4 lenses is Schneider. So I've seen a few of their B4 lenses around, although I don't have a lot of information about Schneider B4 lenses. From what I could see, they look like typical broadcast lenses with the servo zoom and that sort of thing, and typical broadcast zoom ratios. But aside from that, I didn't really look into them too far. I just know that they made B4 lenses for 2/3 inch at some point. And finally, the last one I know of is Angenieux, a French company. They have made some standard definition and HD definition, and maybe even higher than that, I'm not sure. I've seen the HD and the standard definition lenses from Angenieux, and basically I assume they would compete with the major offerings from Canon and Fujinon. Maybe if you're around France and Europe and that sort of area, Angenieux B4 lenses may be more common, but here in Australia, I've never actually seen one in the flesh. I've just seen them for sale in different places. So yeah, that is the whole range of B4 lenses that I know of. Hopefully that helped you in maybe looking at some and deciding whether particular model codes of B4 lens are what you want to buy, and judging whether they are going to be 2/3 inch so you can use them adapted, or whether they're sort of not a 2/3 inch and are going to be not able to be adapted anywhere near as easily as a 2/3 inch lens. So if there's a takeaway from this, it's basically learn the model codes. They're pretty easy, and then check the model codes of the lenses that you're looking to buy, making sure that if you intend to adapt the lens to a single chip camera, that you want a 2/3 inch B4 lens. That's the main takeaway from this. So hopefully that has been useful, learning and checking out what the different levels of 2/3 inch B4 lens are. If you want to learn more about 1/2 inch and 1/3 inch lenses, the charts in the description from Cine go over those smaller sensor type lenses. If you've got any questions, post them down below. Otherwise, I'd love to know what B4 lenses you're using. Hopefully this has helped you, and if it has, if you could hit the like button, that would be really helpful. It helps get this video out to more people who might be interested in B4 lenses. Otherwise, if you want to see more videos, hit subscribe and maybe even tick the bell icon. That way you can see more videos as they're released. I sort of release them very sporadically, so it's hard to know how long it will be between videos. It could be a week, could be a fortnight, could be, you know, a month between videos. So if you tick the bell, you'll get notifications when I release a new video. So that's everything. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something. Until next time, I'll see you then.